Alright, today we are going to use the information that we've been talking about with circle graphs, and we are going to do something a little bit different with that. And what we're going to do is create a bar graph from a circle graph. So today's notes, and I'm going to show you this right now, today's notes have 2 pages. You will also need this one available and ready to go. I will also tell you this, if you would like to use colored pencils, you are welcome to. Go ahead and pause the video and grab them. Otherwise, everything that we do can be completed without the use of colored pencils. I'm, in fact, only going to be using my blue pen today, so I will show you how to do different things with the graph if you only have one color. So if you feel like it, go ahead and pause and go grab colored pencils or markers. Otherwise, whatever you have to write for the notes will be fine. So let's hop right into it and not waste any time. First thing that we're going to do, there are 3 steps. First thing is to change the percentages into the circle graph into numbers based on the information given in the problem or example. So what that means is this. You are given a percentage that tells you what, like for instance, people who own pets, 15% do not own a pet. Well, what in the world does 15% actually mean? Is that 15% of 10 people? Is that 15% of 1,000 people? Is that 15% of 300 million people who live in the United States? What is it? So we need to give a little context to that. So that's the first thing that we're going to do is give that context. The second thing we do is we take a look at the bar graph using the numbers instead of percentages, because circle graphs are great for percentages. Bar graphs are great for the numbers that we have. And the last thing we're going to do, and we'll actually kind of rearrange steps 2 and 3 today, is we are going to give the graph a title, label the bar graph, with all the necessary information. In the example we're given, the circle graph below shows what percentage of 60 people have the pets listed. 2 or more means they have more than one type of pet. So that's this category right here. That means they own like a cat and a dog, a cat and a bird, a dog and a bird, whatever, 2 different species of animals. And then we're going to use the percentages in the circle graph to create a bar graph with the actual numbers of people in each category. So let's take a look at these categories real quick. Like we said, 10% own 2 or more. 5% own other. And what other could be, like they own a bird, they own a fish, an iguana, hamster, something that's not a cat or a dog, which are the 2 other categories. 40% own cats, 30% dogs. And like we mentioned, 15% do not own a pet. All right. The nice thing about circle graphs, before we get too far, is it kind of gives us an idea of if we have a random sampling, and we kind of use that information later on to kind of generalize and kind of make some predictions, which we'll get into of, you know, we've already practiced too, but we'll get into some more of it of if 60 people say this, what could we expect out of like 300 people? Would we expect it to be the same? So, but we can use this information to help us out with that. The nice thing about bar graphs is it's a nice visual that we'll be creating for ourselves of what we actually are seeing. So as we get to it, it'll be a nice way to kind of visualize everything together to look at the actual numbers of each category. So let's hop right into the math bit. To figure this stuff out, we are given this table, and we are given the example of none. So 15%, as we saw up in the circle graph, had no pet. 15% as a decimal is 0.15. And then we run that math using that 60 that we had up here, the 60 people that were surveyed. 60 times 15% gives us 9 people that do not own a pet. So what we're going to do for each thing, we're first going to list the percentages, turn them into decimals, and then we will run that math. So if you have a calculator handy, that would be a good thing to pause the video, make sure you have ready to go, and then we'll take a look together. So moving down the list, dogs was 30%. Cats were 40%. Other was 5%. And 2 or more was 10%. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn each of these into a decimal. And remember, when we are turning a percent into a decimal, we are moving so percent to decimal, we're going to move the decimal point 2 times to the left. So decimal point here on the 30 is after the 30. 2 times to the left is 0.3. Okay, 40, it's the same thing. 2 times to the left leaves me with 0.4. 5% is a little bit different. Decimals at the end, I'm going to go 2 times to the left. There's 1, there's 2, and I've now created this gap that needs to get filled in. We're going to fill that in with a 0. So 5% is 0.05, and 10% is 0.1. All right, let's do the math on this. So each time we're going to multiply by 60, so I'm going to pre-fill that in just to make it easier. And the reason that we're multiplying by 60 is that's how many people they surveyed, that's how many people were talked to. So that's our total number of people that were questioned about this. So we're going to relate everything back to that because this 9 represents 15% of 60. So for these, okay, 60 times 0.3. And again, we're going to set all these up to start, and then you will plug the numbers into your calculator and run that math. All right, 60 times 4 tenths, 60 times 5 hundredths, and 60 times 1 tenth. Here's what you're going to do. You will pause this video, go ahead and run the math on all of those, and then when you're done with that, go ahead and click play again, and then check in with me to make sure you got the right answers. All right, let's check over them. 60 times 3 tenths gives us 18, which if you think about it makes sense. 15% was 9, 30% is twice as much, so the answer is going to be twice as much. 60 times 4 tenths is 24. 60 times 5 hundredths is 3. And 60 times 10%, or 1 tenth, is 6. Which again makes sense. 5% is half of 10%, so 3 is going to be half of 6. Now what that means is this. This is 18 people. This is 24 people. So 18 people have a dog. 24 people have a cat. 3 people have something that is not a dog or a cat. And 6 people have 2 or more types of animals. Now, what that means is this. I would not fit in this. You guys know I have 3 dogs. I would be one of these 18. And the reason is this is not 2 or more pets. It's 2 or more types of pets. I only have dogs, so I would be up here. This is someone who has like a cat and a dog or something like that. All right? So this information is going to be very handy for us. It's going to help us out. We're now going to move on to the second page of everything, and we're going to start up here at the top. Like I said, we're flip-flopping parts 2 and 3 in our steps to do this because we're going to go ahead and pre-label some stuff and then create our table from that. So taking a look at this, the title, what we're trying to figure out, well, it's the exact same title that we had from our circle graph, people who own pets. So people who own pets is our title of this. And if we take a look, we've got something coming down the side, this box along the side that's to label that. And then we've got a box on the bottom along with these different parts to label our bar graph. We're going to need to title that too. So if we think about this, there are really a couple things that we're trying to figure out. So the first thing we're trying to figure out is what pets are there. So cats, dogs, other, 2 or more, or none. And then we're also trying to figure out how many people have that particular pet. So if we think about it, the type of the pet, well, I've got some categories here that I could fill in. So down along the bottom, we're going to use the type of pet. And if you think about it, this belongs at the bottom. Remember, we talked about the x-axis. This is kind of like the x-axis, if you want to think of this as like a sort of coordinate plane. This is the part where like nothing depends on it. The type of pet's going to be the type of pet. A dog is going to be a dog. Nothing I do is going to change that. So we're going to go ahead and pre-fill these in. Okay, cats are always going to be cats. The other category is simply going to be what is the other, and then you've got 2 or more. Now what goes on the other part of it then, if this is the type of pet, well then the part that depends on something else is the number of people who have that pet. So that part's going to depend on which pet those people have. So that part's one that could change based on who's got a particular pet. Alright, the last thing we need to do is we need to simply label everything. The nice thing about this is, I'll pre-count it, hopefully you count it too, but you go 25 high, we can simply just count every line as another value. To make it easy on ourselves though, we're going to do this. So there's 0 right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this just saves me from having to number every single one and label every single thing. 5, 6, 7, 8, and then starting to skip count. 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and up top here, 25. Now, a nice thing, if you look back at your numbers, we don't have anything that is going to be bigger than 24, 25 range, so that's kind of nice for us that we can go ahead and not have to mess with it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this out real quick, so hopefully we can fit everything in one go. So with this, what we're going to do next is we are going to, let me see if I can back this out a little bit. All right, we are going to create our table. Let me see if I can refocus it for us. All right, we're going to use the information that we had given ourselves here to create our table. So I'm going to leave this here for us, that way we can see the numbers all at once. Okay, so what we're going to do is this. I'm going to use the same color. This is a part where if you have colored pencils, you can use different colors for it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply create a bar graph going up for each thing, and I'll show you that in just a second. So taking a look at none. 9 people have no animal. So normally I would draw it up, but like you're not going to see it over this black line, so I'm not going to waste the ink on my pen. But I'm going to go up to 9 in between 8 and 10, and I'm going to draw over to the barrier between the none and dogs, and I'm going to draw that line down. And this is my bar that I've created for none. Now if you have a color, you can shade it in, but for what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply do a diagonal from top left to bottom right to show that's my none category. Alright, take a look at the next one. We have dogs next, and dogs, we said 18 people had dogs. So rather than redraw this, again, wasting ink that I don't want to waste in my pen, I'm going to simply start up at 18, and I'm going to draw that line down to where it connects up there. And then I'm going to draw it over. Notice that you can see that we're creating these bars as we do this. I'm going to draw this one all the way down. And then to differentiate, since I don't have different colors, I drew this one top left, bottom right. I'm going to go top right, bottom left on this one. And this just very quickly shows you one is part of one set of data, the other one is part of another. All right, so far I've got none and dogs in there. We're going to go ahead and take a look at cats next. Cats was our biggest category. Cats had 24 people. And I'm going to pause real quick and tell you this. If any of this is going too fast for you, rewind, rewatch as many times as you need to. I just want to make sure that I'm respecting your time with this and not taking forever to draw this stuff out. And if you need that extra time to draw it out because you're switching colors or whatnot, just pause in between, go ahead and switch that stuff out, draw it in, and then catch up with me. Alright, so taking a look at cats. Cats is 24. So I'm going to extend this line all the way up to where we had 24. And I'm going to draw it across to where it meets up with other. And I'm just going to draw this line all the way up to meet right up there. Now I can go back to doing this if I want because there's a break in between. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do it a little bit differently, and I'm going to sideways shade it a little bit. Okay, so cats is my sideways shade there. Just another way to show the difference between your data stuff. All right. For other, I'm going to be real lazy on this one, just because it's our smallest category. 3 people were other, so I'm going to go to other, go up 1, 2, 3, draw it across, bring it down, and I'm not coloring it in, simply because that's an option that you can have. You don't need to color it in. Okay, I don't need to color any of these in if I really don't want to, but you can get away with it there, not coloring that one in to differentiate it again from all these other ones. It looks different than anything else. All right, last one. We have 2 or more, so the people that own 2 or more types of pets. We have 6 people that fit that, so I'm going to go up 4, 5, 6, draw it over, draw it down, and then for this one, to make this a little bit different, I'm going to put circles in here, doesn't matter, switch up the size a little bit. You can do a half circle like it's going out of it. Okay, we're putting little circles in there. That shows that's different than the other stuff. So what we've done is we've started with this circle graph. We have taken a look at what that stuff means, that 30% were dog owners, 40% were cat owners. We took the information that we had, that 60 people were talked to, surveyed, interviewed, whatever you want to call it for this, and then we figured out what those percentages actually meant in terms of real people. And then now we've created this bar graph, because what this now tells us, another visual way to see, yeah, there's a lot of people that own cats. There's not a lot of people that are owning something that's not a cat or a dog. And there's quite a few people that own 2 or more types of animals. We don't know where it fits along those. We just know it's at least 2 types of animals. There's quite a few people out of 60 that don't have a pet at all. And then our second most was dogs. So we see it kind of stack up and then go down. You can rearrange this and make it kind of look a different shape if you were to slide other over and slide everything else down or whatever you do. But it should look the same as this, where you've got cats being the highest, dogs next, then none, then 2 or more, and lastly, other. So tomorrow we're going to practice this stuff. We're going to take a look at this together in terms of being able to take information from a circle graph and organize it into a bar graph. So make sure that if you have any questions on this stuff, you bring it to class, and we will do some practice together. See you then.